So just as I was leaving the lab to come over here, I ran into one of my colleagues. He was coming in. He was opening up the lab, and he got on his way to work this morning. He was rear-ended by a school bus. How often does somebody say to you, "I got rear-ended by a school bus"? I feel like school bus drivers. I've never been a school bus driver, so I don't know what training they get. I know they have to have a special driver's license, a CDL license. I feel like that if you're going to take the career school bus driver, that you probably care a little bit about safety. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Bus driver in general seems like they would care about the safety of their charges. So you would think getting rear-ended by a school bus would be unlikely. So he got out and he's like, "What happened?" And the bus driver's like, "I don't know what happened." And they go around and look at the back, and there was a bumper-shaped dent in the back of the school bus, but no other car. They took off. So someone rear-ended the school bus, pushed them into my colleague. But then as I was walking over here, I was remembering Mr. Bus Driver, though. So Mr. Bus, do you guys, who went to high school? Most of you went to high school. Yep. Anybody participate in any extracurricular activities in high school? Did the school have a bus to bring you to places to go to like track meets or football games and stuff like that? Yeah. We had a bus too. And we had this great bus driver. I mean, it was cool because, see, I'm filling time while everybody comes to class. It was cool because he was always reading something like really interesting. When you'd go to get on the bus at the end of the track meet, I did track. That doesn't look like I did track, but I did track. No, it wasn't the shot put. So you'd get on the bus and he'd be reading a Dickens novel or something like this, right? But we called him Mr. Bus Driver. I don't know who started it, but we called him Mr. Bus Driver. One day we were driving. It was winter. It was Vermont. We're driving, and I was sitting near the front. Mr. Bus Driver looks over at me and says, "Watch this." So there was a car coming the other direction. He floored it. Now, who's driven in the snow before? Who's driven a rear-wheel drive car in the snow before? Really, just me? Two of us driven a rear-wheel drive car in the snow? What happens when you stand on the throttle and the road's a little bit slippery? The back of the car comes out. Picture that with a school bus. Mr. Bus Driver looked at me and he said, "Watch this." He hit the throttle. The back of the bus comes out sideways. Now, of course, when you're doing it on purpose, when you're the driver in this situation, you're expecting it to happen. You're not scared because you've planned for it. So now if you keep the front wheels pointed the direction you want the vehicle to go, that's the direction the vehicle's going to go. So you steer into the skid, and the other car like runs off the road, goes in the ditch. I don't know what happened to the other car. We just kept on driving. There's Mr. Bus Driver. So maybe not all bus. The amazing thing was, though, I learned later that year that he was a state senator. This bus driving was like because in Vermont, they don't pay the state legislature that much. They have to have a second job. And so when he wasn't in the Senate deciding what the laws of the land were, he was driving his bus up the hill. So anyway, I think we got as many people here as are coming. So let's go ahead and start. Oh, you showed me the trick to fix the video. I totally did not apply the trick. But we have three more tries for me to apply the trick. Oh, can I fix it? I could fix it now, but it's not worth it. It'll play the video and then it'll advance the slide. Today, who's good at keeping time? Who can see a clock and is good at paying attention to time? All right, volunteer. At 20 of, give me a warning. At quarter of, make me stop talking. Tackle me, whatever it takes. You could deputize somebody if you need to. At that time, I want to switch topics to the stuff we need to do to finish the term. I prefer to put the content stuff at the beginning of the lecture instead of that kind of stuff at the beginning of the lecture. So let's talk about what is advanced manufacturing. Look at that. I have a slide. Technical. So what's the first thing you do when you want to know what something is? Google it, I heard. Okay. What is it? Now, if it's a schoolish thing, if it's got words like advanced in it, do you just Google it? What if you wanted to get like the super Google? What would you do? Somebody had your hand up.
Yeah, try to figure out what words people use to describe it.
All right, so figure out what words people use to describe it. That'd be cool. Now, we spent the whole previous part of the class pretty much talking about what is manufacturing, right? We've got a good understanding of what is manufacturing. We're going to get to that in a second. But first thing I do when somebody, who's heard advanced manufacturing before? You've heard it before? In what context?
It was like a manufacturing video.
All right, so is some manufacturing video and they said advanced manufacturing. What's the first thing that came to your mind when you heard them say this is advanced manufacturing or whatever they said? You don't remember? Okay. So when I say, if I said the mission of our company is to be at the forefront of advanced manufacturing, or this is WPI's advanced manufacturing laboratory, what comes to your mind when I say those words? So if the mission of my company is to be at the forefront of advanced manufacturing, what comes to your mind? It's like a line of BS, right? I'm trying to convince investors to give me money. I'm trying to convince customers that I do something. Who knows about the company BASF? You've heard of the company BASF. They used to make like cassette tapes and floppy disks and all these kind of things. But there still exists. They don't have all those commercial products out there. They had this commercial on. Who remembers TV? Few of us remember TV. It was before Netflix. So we'd watch TV and there was commercials on, and BASF would have commercials, which I thought was kind of weird. And the theme of their commercial was, we don't make the stuff you use. We make the stuff you use better. What they're trying to say is their product was in everybody else's product. And so when I want to know what advanced manufacturing is, first thing I do is Google it. But I don't limit myself to lowly Google. I use Google Scholar. Because Google Scholar should tell me what advanced, the word advanced tells me that there's science involved. And science is reported in scholarly articles. So if you want to see scholarly articles, use Google Scholar. So let's check out what's advanced manufacturing. Can I zoom this? All right, it's on the screen. Let's see the plus button, right? Is it Control plus? Yeah, Control plus. Ooh. Unlocking the Potential of Advanced Manufacturing. What year was it published? 1997. Huh. All right, year. Anytime. I think we're on Anytime right now. Year. What do you guys think? What makes it advanced? What year should we look at? Because clearly there was advanced manufacturing in 1776, right? Something in 1776 was advanced. What year do you think? The most recent. So 2021, that's like half a year. Let's check out 2021. All right. Big data analytics platform for industry 4.0. Let's write that down. I 4.0. I not in all the letters. Radial slicing for helical-shaped advanced manufacturing applications. That sounds like bullshit. What do you think it is? Radial slicing for advanced manufacturing. Just based on the title, what do you guys think it's about? Yeah.
Isn't it just like turning operations?
I don't think it's about turning operations. Who's ever used a 3D printer? Who's ever used the software for a 3D printer? I guess that it's about slicing the model so you can figure out how to 3D print it. Let's click on it, see what it's about. I haven't clicked on it. I don't know. Really? My privacy is important. So is yours. But, accept all cookies. I don't really care. It's not my... Look at this, Industry 4.0. In the first sentence, right? Industry 4.0 must be advanced. Radial slicing for helical-shaped advanced manufacturing applications. Printer to print, separation spiral, slicing and printing. Yeah, so it's the 3D printing. It's not even the 3D printing part of 3D printing. It's the, like, how do you take the solid model and make it into the stuff that you're going to 3D print later? Okay, back. Advanced not that far back. Advanced manufacturing to enable the next generation of nuclear plants. Like, how do you draw a leaf? Is that like I'm drawing a... Is that the plant they mean? No. Not like a tulip. I was trying to draw a tulip there. Not an artist. Advanced manufacturing to enable the next generation of nuclear plants. Many manufacturing fabrication technologies employed light water reactors built 30 to 50 years ago. Okay. Engineering the expansion of higher education, high skills, advanced manufacturing, and the knowledge economy. Any keywords there that jump out? I think knowledge economy jumps out at me. We'll get related searches too. Nuclear core design, another nuclear one. What is this telling you about advanced manufacturing so far? How many did we look at? 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 20. We looked at 5, and 2 of them are about nuclear engineering. So is advanced manufacturing in 2021 about nuclear engineering? About designing nuclear power plants? This nuclear core design is about how do you lay out the fuel rods in the nuclear core of the reactor. Do you guys know I studied nuclear engineering when I was a student here at WPI? I did. Physics-informed machine learning. This is something I expected to see. Machine learning. I expected to see something about machine learning. What does machine learning say to you? What do we also call machine learning today? Common usage. Yes.
Artificial intelligence.
So if you see artificial intelligence, it lines up with machine learning. There's overlap in those two topics. I wish we could just have intelligence. I really don't care if it's biological or artificial. Can we just have intelligence? Physics-informed machine learning for solving heat transfer equations in advanced manufacturing and engineering applications. Artificial intelligence for nuclear systems empowered by advanced manufacturing. Industry 4.0 adoption of 10R advanced manufacturing capabilities for sustainable development. Should probably add nuclear to this, right? Support for a European metrology network for advanced manufacturing. Does that mean Europeans are advanced? They made the first page on Google. So, all right, so being on the first page of Google is pretty important, right? So there's 10 of them. We have metrology, material solutions, including advanced manufacturing for nuclear applications. So 3 out of 10 are about nuclear. 1, 2, is it 3 or 4 that have Industry 4.0 in them? 1, 2, 3. So 30% Industry 4.0, 30% nuclear. Was there overlap between the nuclear and the 4.0? I don't think so. So what do we know about advanced manufacturing? So we did our Google research. We spent 10 minutes doing it or so. So in our first 10 minutes of research in advanced manufacturing, what do we know? Nothing.
It just sounds like a way to confuse investors and also give them to give us money.
All right, so you say it sounds like a way to confuse investors. When I had my first company that I started, I figured that I needed to learn about accounting. Because if you have a company, you kind of have to hire an accountant, or you have to do accounting for sure, right? And so I bought, McGraw-Hill had this book. It said, learn accounting in 24 hours, 36 hours, I think it was. It was 36 chapters. Each chapter was supposed to take an hour to learn the thing. So learn accounting in 36 hours. I get to like chapter 4. And what I determined was that this system was designed to fool the investors. So the accounting system that all corporations use these days is designed to make sure the investors don't know what the company's doing, but to still get money. That was so you say confuse. What else do we know about advanced manufacturing? So if this was middle school and you had to write a report about advanced manufacturing, would you have done more research than this? I don't think so. You might have read some of you definitely wouldn't have looked at more than 10 web pages, whether they were from Google Scholar or not. So we should be able to form an opinion about what is advanced manufacturing today. 2021, right? That's this year. What's advanced manufacturing? It's got something to do with this Industry 4.0. We might want to learn more about Industry 4.0. It's got something to do with nuclear engineering. We might want to know something about that, right? If we're going to talk about advanced manufacturing in 2021, it's got something to do with this knowledge economy, AI, and machine learning. Do you think they're going to use this stuff to do this stuff? And maybe to do this stuff? Right? How long? When's the first time you heard something about the knowledge economy? Yeah,
A couple months ago.
a couple months ago. Who's ever heard the term knowledge is power? When's the first time you heard that? You can't remember, right? It's like this thing that we know, that knowledge is power. I'll say that that's a false statement, by the way. Knowledge is not power. The application of knowledge might be, but the knowledge by itself, if you don't do anything with it, is not especially useful. So several years ago, I overheard a conversation between one of my colleagues and the department head. And I already knew that those two didn't like each other very much. And I didn't want to be on the bad side of either one of them. So although I could hear what they were talking about, I stayed out of the conversation. Lesson 1 in political survival is if you don't want either of them to not like you, maybe don't be a part of the conversation, especially if you might agree with one of them or the other one, or even worse, you might realize that they both have valid points. So they're talking, and it was kind of a heated discussion. And my colleague says to the department head, he says, well, what is advanced manufacturing then? Gets heated discussion at universities. They say there's nothing like university politics because the stakes are so low. But so he says, what is advanced manufacturing? And the department head looked at him, and it actually shut him up, which is hard to do with this particular colleague. Looked at him and said, it's whatever the National Science Foundation is funding this year. And so if you study Google Scholar, if you look at these journal publications to determine what is advanced manufacturing, it's going to be whatever the government is funding research in right now. Because we all want to call ourselves advanced. We all want to be doing advanced manufacturing. If we're doing research, I would say that if a company says our objective is to be at the forefront of advanced manufacturing, don't work there and don't invest in that company. If a university lab says that, then okay. If you want to do university research, go work there and help them write grant proposals to get funded for big data, Industry 4.0. Who's ever heard of Industry 4.0 before? I swear to God, it was Industry 3.0 a year ago. If we go back like a year, it's Industry 3.0. I can't tell you what changed between the two of them. Right? But we like with our software versioning, now that we get a new version of software every year, we got to get a new version of industry every year. What do you think? What do you think Industry 4.0 is? Because it is the buzzword, right? We talked about technobabble and buzzwords, right? Advanced manufacturing creates new buzzwords for us. That's certain. What do you think Industry 4.0 is? What do you think the future of manufacturing is? I know what I think it is. What do you guys think the future of manufacturing is based on what you know of manufacturing today and what you believe about the future of the world? Yes. You think it's going to be more sustainable? You know the odds to draw an inside straight? Anybody play poker? He's the optimist. He thinks it's going to be more. I want it to be more sustainable. I'm also optimistic about that. What does somebody else think advanced manufacturing is going to be? What do you think it is? Yes. You think there's going to be fewer people in the process? Okay, so with 3D printing using robotics, there'll be fewer people in the process of doing the manufacturing. So so we had the agricultural revolution, right? They talk about that in ancient history, right? Where we started growing stuff. We could form villages and towns. We'd have agriculture. Then we had the industrial revolution. right? What was the Industrial Revolution all about? It's a little bit of a social studies class. I apologize. But yeah.
You could make products for a bunch of people instead of everyone specializing in
And so what sort of symbolizes this Industrial Revolution? Oh, not that one. Pictures like that, right? What happened? So in the agricultural revolution, which happened, I don't know, in Mesopotamia, right? Happened a long time ago. We went from being hunters and gatherers to being farmers. Wealth came from farming, right? The wealthy people were the landowners. People that worked for them were less wealthy. Wealth came from farming, from being a landowner. Then in the Industrial Revolution, where did wealth come from? Right. Owning the materials to make the machines. Right. U.S. Steel was a big deal. Carnegie became the wealthiest man in the world. $350 million in what, 19 something? 18 something? What year was it? Anybody know? U.S. Steel? Anyways, when $350 million was a lot of money. Now it'll barely buy you a super yacht. So we get the Industrial Revolution. People left the farms. They went to go work in the factories. Most of the labor was happening by people moving parts around, right? People operating machine tools. The wealth was created by making new stuff, by adding value to raw materials. This is when manufacturing became the lead of our economy. Before the Industrial Revolution, farming, agriculture was the head of our economy. Then the Industrial Revolution happens, and creating value through changing raw materials into stuff people want to buy became how we generated wealth. Then what happened? So that's 2.0. We get Industry 1.0, that's agriculture. 2.0 is the Industrial Revolution. Happened late 1700s, early 1800s through, what's the end of the Industrial Revolution? Space race, internet. I think when they talk about Industry 3.0, they're talking about the knowledge revolution or the internet and this idea of using knowledge, and this is really when this knowledge is power came to be the thing that we believed, the thing we thought about. And so it's when computers got faster, everybody got a computer, the computers got connected, right? When the internet happens, this idea that we could create wealth by knowing stuff. So what changed between, and so that happened when? Somewhere between the 1980s and now. So this is the dawning of the internet. Industry 4.0. It's not the age of Aquarius. We missed that. So Industry 4.0 is when we take the Industrial Revolution and merge it with that knowledge revolution. And it's when the machine tools start talking to each other. Who's ever flown in an airplane? Who's ever been worried about your airplane running into another airplane while you're flying on it? Really, you guys should worry more about that, especially near airports. There's a lot of airplanes near airports, right? It's the place where the airplanes go. Did you know that we have an air traffic control system, right? The air traffic controllers get the radar. You've just seen this in the movies and the TV, right? You've seen this, right? And they get the bleep, bleep. Bleep. Or is that the submarine thing? Anyway, they get the planes on the radar. He's like, vector 21010. It fly 10,000 feet, right? And they telling them where to go and all this stuff, right? If planes run into each other in the air, is it because the air traffic controller? Sometimes. So big jets, when they're flying, they're not just listening to the air traffic controller. In fact, the pilot following the air traffic controller is not the highest level of control. I mean, it's ultimately up to the pilot to decide, right? Pilots decide what's safe for the aircraft. The airplanes are talking to each other too. They get radios and they're talking to each other. And if they're coming too close, the two planes, the computers on board the two planes will say, all right, you climb, you go down. And the plane will talk to the pilot and say, descend. And the other plane, the plane will talk to the pilot and say, climb. And the two planes go like that. And all the pilots do is they say, responding to the plane system, they call it the RS, I think. So descending for RS, or climbing for RS, and they just miss each other. They don't run into each other. So it's not just the air traffic controller who's watching, trying to keep the planes from running into each other. The planes themselves are talking to each other. The guy flying the 747 halfway across the Atlantic might get a text message from GE. It says, hey, shut down engine number 4. It's about to explode. Engine number 4 is talking via satellite link to the factory at GE. This is Industry 4.0. It's where the machines are communicating with each other. The data is being collected automatically. Anybody get one of those fancy refrigerators that tells you when you're out of milk? But you know about it, right? It's $5,000 refrigerators. When I was a kid, my dream in life was to own a refrigerator with an ice maker. In my mind, rich people had refrigerators with ice makers. My dream in life was to own a refrigerator with an ice maker. Finally, about 10 years ago, I became rich. Got my first refrigerator with a built-in ice maker. You know what happened? Ice maker broke. I fixed it 3 times before I bought a new refrigerator. But the new one has an ice maker too. Anyway, so I haven't quite gotten to, it tells me when I need milk. So Industry 4.0, which is, I think, if we let 2021 go and we get some more publications there, I think it'll exceed 50% of those publications in that Google Scholar search. That's what NSF is funding now. Is Industry 4.0. I was surprised by the nuclear thing. Why are we funding nuclear energy? Nuclear power plant building. Anybody know? It's to help him. It's to make us more sustainable. Not because it's necessarily better for the environment over the long term, but it's certainly better for the environment over the short term. And as somebody that studied nuclear engineering, I understand that the problem with nuclear waste isn't engineering, it's political. There's plenty of good ways to deal with the nuclear waste, just not in my backyard. Everybody wants to put it somewhere else. All right, advanced manufacturing. We know what Google says. If we want to decide what's advanced manufacturing for us, what do we have to do? So we've looked at Google. We've seen what the internet says. And you could, if you just Googled it instead of using Scholar, all the articles that came up on the first 10 would have been Industry 4.0. And it's this interconnectivity of machine tools. Is this machine tool monitoring? It's telling the machine tool manufacturer that your machine's broken before you even know that it's broken. That's what Industry 4.0 is, which is trying to make us more, and somewhat the automation stuff. I would say that Industry 4.0 does not have nearly as much emphasis on automation as it does on information collecting and planning. But if we want to know what advanced manufacturing is, we got to know what is manufacturing, right? I think we've established that pretty much. So let's just do a quick review. What is manufacturing? So what is manufacturing? Making stuff to, at the highest level, manufacturing is making stuff to sell. What do we have to do in order to make stuff to sell? If we truly want to understand what is advanced manufacturing, regardless of what Google says, what is manufacturing is the first question we have to answer. It's making stuff to sell. What do we have to do to make stuff to sell? Know what people want. Right, we're going to know what people want if we're going to make stuff to sell. That's not the emphasis of this class, but it's part of what is manufacturing. We've got to know processes, right? Or we have to do processes. We have to know what people want. To what people want. So take raw material, turn it into the things people want. Is this still manufacturing? Make stuff to sell by knowing what people want, applying processes to raw material to turn that stuff into what people want, and then sell it to them. So the results in our Google search, what part of the process are they talking about? So if there's 4 things that make up manufacturing, which is making stuff to sell by knowing what people want, processing raw materials into the thing that people want, and selling it to them. In our Google search, all of the results were about one of those 4 things, right? All of our results in our Google search were about that one, about how applying manufacturing processes and about making manufacturing processes better. Is that true? All right, so what makes it advanced? Now, could we advance the knowing what people want part of manufacturing? We could, actually, this guy, Stephen Keyes, if that's the part of the industry that you want to focus on is the knowing what people want, start your research with this guy, Stephen Keyes. Keyes with an S at the end. And he makes his living designing products. He doesn't make any of the products. He doesn't sell any of the products. He comes up with the idea, then he finds the manufacturer who will make it, and he licenses the idea to them. But in his secret to success is to observe consumers. Watch their pattern, watch what they're doing, and then do something that's better than what they're buying now. But anyway, so if you want to worry about what do people want, start with Stephen Keyes. If you want to worry about how to sell it to them, I don't know, there's about 10 million people on the internet that will give you sales training. I like Grant Cardone, but whatever. There's like 10 million people on the internet that'll give you sales training. But if you want to know about the process part, what would make a process more advanced? Yes. All right, so if we're going to advance our process, we want to reduce waste. What else would make our process more advanced? So reduce time more efficient. So reduce time. What else?
More precision and accuracy.
I like this because finally we were positive. Everybody else is like, reduce this, reduce that. Increase precision. And accuracy? They're not the same thing, so we'll do that as two things. So increase precision, increase accuracy. Now, I think we want to do all of these cost neutral. Neutral. How do you spell neutral? EU, right? I knew nut was the wrong start for that word. So we'd like to be cost neutral when we reduce these things, or we just add reduce cost down here. But by reducing waste and time, we probably reduce cost. But we don't want to increase precision and accuracy at the cost of time. Is there anything else that makes it more advanced? I mean, all right, it's advanced if NSF is willing to fund the research. But if we simply want to advance our manufacturing, what do we want to do? Anything else? Yes.
Is there like any changes that will create a positive impact?
Create a positive impact.
Like on your process or to the customer?
So you wanted to be sustainable back at the beginning, right? Right. We want to be sustainable. That's a positive impact on the world than if we're more sustainable. So I first heard about it in Germany 20 or 30 years ago. I think it applies to all the EU countries now. But any manufacturer that sells something must take back all the packaging that it shipped in and must recycle or reuse all the packaging. So it certainly didn't reduce cost to require the manufacturers to do that, right? But it did increase sustainability, so it was good for society at the cost of the manufacturer. You wanted to have automation, right? You wanted automation. Conveniently the topic of tomorrow's lecture. But you wanted to add automation to take people out of the loop, to advance manufacturing. Why do we take people out of the loop if we're a manufacturer? Yeah. All right, so people make mistakes, so that increases waste. So we would reduce waste potentially by taking people out. Because people have a salary, so people increase cost. Yeah. There's a lot of non-value added cost included in people, like insurance, payroll taxes, daycare. A lot of companies have to provide daycare for their employees. So that's why we want to remove people. Sometimes automation can be used to increase precision and or accuracy. Certainly precision. Take people out of dangerous situations. So I almost never want to apply automation to reduce people. I often want to employ automation to allow people to do something more valuable. Right? What's the number one value of your employees? of any company. So one of the best managers, one of the best leaders of people that I ever met personally, one of the things he repeated every time he taught here at WPI, when I see him lecture to his class, I don't think there was ever a class that he didn't say this. What most companies forget is that their primary asset goes home every day at 5 o'clock. The people are the most important part of any company because they have judgment. They have the ability to think. Whereas it's hard, well, all right, if we get enough AI going on, maybe we can get rid of the people, but I think we got to focus on the I part first to make sure we have intelligence before we worried about artificial. I knew you missed it. I saw it. I checked. Is it 8:45? 8:44. All right, we're going to continue this discussion about people and automation tomorrow. But what's the point of manufacturing? So manufacturing is making stuff with the intent of selling it. Why? To make a profit, right? But who gets that profit? In the big picture, society at large gets it. So some of it goes to the capitalist who invested in the infrastructure to create the company. Whether that's because they borrowed money from a bank, because somebody had money and they wanted to put it somewhere to do something useful with it. So some of that profit, sometimes as much as 30% of that profit, I don't think much more usually goes to the owners of the company, the shareholders. The rest of that profit is distributed among the employees. And sometimes this is bonuses, right? So when profits go up, my wife gets a bonus every year if the company does well. I guess I get a bonus every year when WPI does well too. But my bonus is the knowledge that I contributed. She gets like a cash bonus. Often her cash bonus is like a significant percentage of my salary from WPI, but that's besides the fact. So really that profit gets distributed to the people that work at the company. So the difference between the cost of making it and the price that you sell it at, some percentage of that goes to the owners. Most of it goes to the people that work at the company. So that wealth is created where the manufacturing happens. And that means that the society, the place where the manufacturing happens, there's more money spread around for people to go to grocery stores, go to day spas, wherever they want to go to spend that money. And so the wealth stays in the location, which is one of the beauties of manufacturing. So yes, we want to reduce waste. We want to do automation. I hope our primary goal isn't to get rid of the people, because we want to spread that money around to our community so we can live in a nice community where people have money. Because I don't know if anybody's ever lived in a community where people didn't have much money. They're not fun streets to walk down. Whereas if you live in a community where people have money, they're more fun streets to walk down. So let's do that for our communities. So we can do that. All right. So it's 1:15-ish. Close enough? Okay. I promised you some things at the beginning of the term. By the way, I accidentally looked at ratemyprofessor.com this weekend. I swore off several years ago when somebody wrote something that it didn't make me feel happy when I read it. You ever had like see something, read something, and it makes your heart sort of like become like a little iron ball for an instant? Yeah. So I just like, screw it. I'm not going to look at that. Stupid kids don't know anything anyway. Why should I look at their feedback? And, but accidentally, I was Googling something and it included my name. Not that I Google myself often, but I was looking for a blog post that I wrote, and I thought if I included what I thought the title of the blog post was in my name, I could figure out which blog I wrote it in. Never found it, but I did come across ratemyprofessor.com. Somebody last year wrote, one of the best professors at WPI. was like, wow, I should check this website out more often. And then somebody this year wrote, somebody in this class, maybe you're sitting here right now, wrote, very disorganized. Yeah, you got me. I am. But I'm not going to make that count against you guys. That's my problem, not your problem. And it shouldn't be your problem. We didn't do nearly as many quizzes and homeworks as I wanted to do during the term. You would agree? Certainly not as many as you expected. That will not count negatively against you. I'm doing one more this week. I'll put it out tomorrow. We'll go through it tomorrow in class at the end of class. And then there'll be the final exam next week. And you guys saw the video for the lab practical? It is not intended to be difficult or stressful. If you follow the steps on the checklist and do the steps on the checklist, you get 100% on the lab practical. If you ask how to do one of the 6 steps and the PLA shows you everything you need to do that step, it counts 5 points off. You could ask how to do all 6 steps and still get a 70. The intent of the exam is for you to identify the edge of your own knowledge and ask for help when you get to that. If you skip one of the steps because you didn't ask for help, because you were embarrassed to admit you didn't know, that's 25 points off. That sucks. Don't do that. But even if that happens, you can take it again. It's like a driver's test. The cop sitting next to you when you do your driver's test, I don't believe they know how you scored last time. They're there to judge how you do it this time. So if you screw up, you can do it again. I want everybody to get 100. There'll be some questions on the quiz this week from everything we talked about in the term. You'll have unlimited attempts to get the questions right. And I'll try to put some feedback in to tell you where to go find the answer if you get it wrong the first time. The questions on the final exam will be of the exact same format as the questions on the quiz. So if it's a math question, it may not be the same numbers. You'll have to remember the equations. But the final exam will be roughly identical to the quiz for this week. So this week is a practice for the final exam. They will not fire me if everybody gets an A in the class. But I need to be able to justify it. So we got to have you turn in the stuff. You had your hand up for a question. Did I answer it? Okay. But yeah, the lab practical exam is not intended to be difficult or stressful. Honestly, I really don't want to do anything that adds to your stress right now. If you feel that I'm doing something that adds to your stress and you need me to give you a break, just let me know. And that goes for you people at home too. Unless, of course, I'm not grading you. If you're just watching for the fun of it and you're still here, thanks. And maybe in the spring, we'll be able to take our masks off and see what everybody looks like. Thank you.